Hello.
Technical difficulties here at the Book Bar today.
Sorry.
Welcome.
Welcome.
This is Hati
I'm Babs.
for today.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know who that is, you're about to, because we are about to interview John Cusick again for his sequel, Dimension Y2,
Which
Revenge of the Sequel.
Revenge of the Sequel, which is awesome in so many ways. And honestly, if you haven't read it, then you're probably not going to understand half of the interview because a lot of it's going to be inside jokes. But
Which means you have to read it.
Which means you have to read it because it's going to be funny. And, we've got our Twinkies here. So
there's only one Twinkie. Should I give me a Twinkie?
I didn't get it. Well, there is only one Twinkie in the story, too. So,
It's okay.
it's a very special Twinkie. But without further ado,
It's the Twinkie!
let's play John's trailer that we made so you can get just a little snippet on who and what we are going to be talking about. Welcome.
There he is. I apologize.
Thank you so much.
I've been wanting to scream the Twinkie forever.
I'm glad that this book gave you the opportunity to do that.
Yes.
There have been so many times in my classroom where I'm like, I'm not going to do it. They're going to look at me weird. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to wait. And so now I got to do it. I'm so excited.
Happy for you. So happy for you.
Well, welcome back, John
Yes.
Cusick.
It's great to be back. I'm so glad to see you guys again. You are my favorite people to talk to, as I tell you all the time. Thank you for that awesome trailer, which makes me smile so much.
Oh, yeah. It's fun, right?
That's all Kristi. She's got such talent. And,
Yeah, I was really super excited about that Twinkie.
I know. She messaged me and she's like, oh my gosh, there's something in our video that just makes me giggle every time I see it. I'm going to send it to you right now. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like watching it and I'm like, yeah, this is cool. This is cool. And then all of a sudden the Twinkie flies across the screen. I'm like, that's it. That's what made you giggle.
I mean, I've done it all. I think I've done it.
Yeah, that's really, you have.
So how are you? Big year for you.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I'm doing well. Like Finn's parents in the book, my wife and I have been on a trip away from home, an extended trip away. We've been living in the Caribbean the past year. And
I know we've got to talk to you twice while you're there,
That's right. But now we are very close to going back to Brooklyn. So just in a few weeks, we'll be headed back to lovely New York City and home. And so we're excited, but we're in definitely this like weirdo transitional phase right now where we're just about to go,
So you have you're ready. There's a place you have.
Yeah, because didn't you sell your place when you moved out there?
We did. Well, so we were renting and then we let our old place go. So we are coming back to an Airbnb for like a month and in our old neighborhood, happily enough. And from there, we're going to kind of look at, the local real estate and find a more permanent spot, hopefully in that area, because we like it a lot. But, we'll see.
So you're going back right when it gets like super cold.
Yes.
But it's so pretty.
Leaving the island to go back to snow.
But it's so
well.
We don't have that here.
Mm-mm.
I was telling Molly that it's like in, Ocean's 11 or Shawshank Redemption or something. It's like when the guy is getting out of prison and they give him the same clothes that he on the day he went in, and you look so out of place. Like literally, I have a pair of long jeans and a leather coat that I wore on the plane down here last year, and I'm just going to put those back on and like walk back out. Here I am again.
There you are.
Here I am, world.
Reemerged the way you left. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I do have a question, since you're still in the islands. Do you just do you just sit around in your bathrobe like all day?
It's too hot for a bathrobe, but it is like just shorts and no socks and no shoes for the past year.
Because you like
bathrobes.
bathrobes.
Like bathrobes.
You seem to really like.
That's true. I think any kind of like flowy clothing, I'm a big fan of. I have an amazing rainbow caftan that I'm not wearing at the moment. But
Why not?
No, you gotta
I
sport that. You gotta show that.
I feel like if anyone would have appreciated it, you guys would have gone for it.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
We tried to get you on Halloween, and you said you didn't have a costume. I mean, like that would have worked perfectly.
Yeah, I know. Well, so I will say I did too late come up with a costume concept, which is that I'm a latecomer to What We Do in the Shadows, the show about vampires. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah, it's so funny.
I feel like there's a good couple's costume in there with Laszlo. I feel like I could make a good Laszlo. Maybe next year. I don't know.
Next year
They
for
crack
sure.
me up.
Well, absolutely love this. I mean, I post so many times. I honestly, I don't.
A lot of tabs.
There's lots of tabs, lots of bent pages. I know, I've bent pages. You tab.
I also bend pages.
Right. So
I did not bend in this book.
that's okay. But so many. It's just so funny, and I had to ask Kristi this. I don't know. Did I totally miss your play on words, even with the title? The fact that it's like, is it did I mention why? Like, because like with your play.
Oh my God! You just gave him one. I think.
I don't know if I can take credit for that. I think that's
I
think that's an original.
Because I was like, there's so many play on words that you have in here, and then I'm like looking at the title. I'm like, did I mention why?
Did I mention?
Did
why?
I miss that? Did I miss that? Did I mention why?
Oh my God, I love that. No, I didn't.
Cheers
that wasn't
to
what I was
you.
thinking.
Book number 3.
I'll drink to that.
Yeah. So there you go. Did I mention why? Now, whole new thing for your NaNoWriMo.
Write that down.
There was Molly and I brainstormed the title for the series while she was in the hospital, actually, and we went through so many different iterations of what the thing would be, like Dimension Y, what that sort of in-your-face title would be, and then what the subtitle would be.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the idea of Dimension something, even though it's just space, like just the way in which like old radio dramas would just have these over-the-top titles, like the creature from Dimension Y, and you're like, what is that? Does that ever come up in the thing at all? No. And also I Left My Sneakers in Dimension X was one of my favorite books as a kid, so I really liked that idea, and also just the word why, as in like why this book, why is any of this happening, just
why was I not born with this pun talent?
I know.
Why?
I would just read things out loud to my husband. I'd be like, this is the way it's spelled, and this is what it says.
I see his face.
I know. He's like, I don't understand. I'm like, if you knew John, you would. I'm like, I'm just saying. You knew him, you would.
Yeah. And I do want to say, when I first started out, we've got the little kind of backstory of Sandy here, and I relate to her.
Oh, yeah.
I get it. It's too people-y.
Well, and I was wondering, like, because everything was quarantined, was that kind of like, because I'm like, dude, I totally get her. Like, I would annihilate all the people. Like,
Yeah. So, first of all, I want is that, did you guys find that that first chapter too, like, quiet and boring? Because I worried that it's such a, like, sort of like it's late at night and she's sneaking out. It's not exactly a big bang.
No, I didn't feel that way at all.
If anything, I was
like I said, I connected.
There's so many people.
Yeah, like, it was a little claustrophobic.
I was like cheering for her at the end. I was like, go!
Yeah, I think she was
from my own little wand.
Yeah, she's just a total. I don't know if introvert is the word. Like, she is a real loner, and she would rather be alone in the universe, totally, with her dog/dragon.
Yeah.
And it comes from being just piled on. Like, people are too much, and then I look up at the sky and I'm like, oh my God, there's more up there. So yeah, she's very single-minded in her purpose. It's very simple. It's going to take a while, but it's very straightforward.
Yeah. And sometimes you get a little backstory in some stories about the villain or whatnot. I didn't need one. I was good. I understood her. Understood her perfectly. Well done.
Thank you.
So, in book one, we talked about that there was lots of kind of like inside jokes and your characters, like Professor Donut was named after, your cat. I was wondering if any of the characters in this one, because we have a lot, like, are named after maybe some island friends that you've met, is P-Money, like...
Or assistant.
Yeah. Assistant Professor Tinklepoops.
So,
yours?
So Professor Tinklepoops was the original name of the character who became Professor Donut.
Okay.
And it was this running gag that Finn couldn't get his name out without, like, breaking into giggles.
Well, for sure.
And it was too much, I think, to do for the entire book. So he became Professor Donut. And Professor Tinklepoops became the assistant. I will say two of the names, when Lola is on the garbage planet and she's talking to these two aliens.
Corona.
Yeah, she's talking to these two aliens who are trying to, like, who have a bad translator, and the translator is doing its best to translate their untranslatable names.
The cheese
was so funny.
Havarti.
Yeah.
Right. What was that?
So Mango Corona comes from in Coney Island, when the guys are walking up and down the beach selling mangoes in Corona. They go, Mango Corona, Mango Corona. And that was just in my head when I was writing this. So I'm like, that's a character name, Mango Corona. And then we were watching an episode of The Property Brothers on HGTV, and they always, like, name their projects. And one of their, like, their renovations had a house with a yellow kitchen, and they called it Bumblebee Kitchen House. And for like a year and a half, I walked around being like, I'm Bumblebee Kitchen House. Like, I just couldn't get that out of my head as a, like, silly name. So those two characters are basically in the book, so I could name characters those names.
Which I do have a bone to pick with you on the garbage planet, because
it's questions.
Like, what the heck happened with Becca? I feel like we just left her.
She's hurt by this.
She helped Lola. They sent out the whole, like, message, and then Lola just.
That's true.
I just feel bad for Becca.
It's okay.
She won it all.
Becca kind of gets a raw deal. That's really true. Becca really doesn't get a great conclusion there. I mean, I feel like, Becca is so clearly a trust fund kid. Like, she's gonna be fine. She's doing her, like, poverty tourism thing.
I get it.
But, like, she'll be okay. But I agree. She gets sort of short shrift, doesn't she?
She's like, I'm going to go take a nap. Let me know if they,
I'll come back for you. I'll come back.
She's like, I've got you. And then she's like, I'm going to hitch a ride with this, mobile. See ya.
But, I think Lola saw her opportunity and she took it. She had to go, She had bigger priorities.
I know. Poor Becca, though.
Poor Becca.
She's probably somewhere else now. I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah, she's scrappy. She knows how to.
She's got the street smarts.
Yeah, she knows how to. She has to do it. She knows how to do it. But yeah. So that was really my own. But nobody else like Key Money or Randall. Or
So,
favorite.
well, no. One of the villains I named after my third grade teacher, Mrs. Anthony, because she was horrible.
Did she dose you guys all with intense sleepy time tea?
No, she was just mean and very like like just like had very specific rules. It just kind of was waiting for you to screw up, and then she'd yell at you, just like too rough for a bunch of third graders. Mm-hmm. And she really upset me as a kid. And I remember,
for you to remember
probably
her name, yes.
Third grade.
Oh yeah,
any of my teachers' names.
Oh man, I'm so petty. I mean, it's been over 30 years. Like,
right shoulder.
I'm still grinding my gears over it. And
sorry, Miss Anthony.
Got you back, Miss Anthony.
Yeah, but that's the thing. When I was a kid, and I would get so upset at this, my parents, I'm sure, are the ones who said to me, like, well, one day you can, you'll write a book where you can, make her the villain or whatever. And I thought, I don't know how many opportunities I'm going to get to publish a book. So now's the time. So there you go.
There she is.
Full circle.
So like,
which by the way, the exception to the rule, teachers are absolutely amazing. And I have so many that I loved and who are in my acknowledgments and whatnot. But Mrs. Anthony deserves to be the name of a horrible AI who gets fired.
Well, let me ask you this. What kind of a student were you?
I was it depends on who you asked, apparently. No, I was a good kid. I think.
Opinion.
I think I probably was more of a Thin than a Lola, though. I think so. So I was an acquired taste. Teachers either loved me or they couldn't stand me.
Well, you had you had yellow detention slips in here. So did you get yellow detention slips when you were younger?
I must have. Yeah, that must have been the color. I remember we had a little black book that you had to write your name in. And then there was no further consequences than that. Like, that was just, as a little kid,
oh yeah,
you knew that was bad. And so you felt like, oh my God, this book is so terrible. And then, yeah, we must have had yellow detention slips now that you mention it.
Detention in third grade. Interesting.
Yeah, I've had one. Not me, my stepdaughter. So
no shame.
I felt like there were a couple of like underlying jokes towards the publishing world a little bit. Maybe in here.
This is how. Yeah, I guess there are. It's a business with a lot of quirks, and it's obviously the only business I want to work in, but it is also something that kind of deserves a little bit of parody from time to time. I also feel like, just having been in a number of offices like the ones that Finn visits in this book, it's just fun to describe them. You know what I mean? Because
like
that
3 academic committee meetings.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and they're like, we're gonna have the Zoom conference celebration. Like, oh, am I on? Like, we've got our drinks. That's just what I think it would be like.
I was like, I think that's a little jab. Make a note of that one. But it was cute. I mean, we all can relate to that. We're like, there's 50,000 meetings that could have been like,
especially now.
Yes, and today. Maybe that's why there's all these, the bathrobes, because you're on the Zoom. Well, no, they'd see them. No,
you have to have business in the
and then part. Nothing.
Just like the president, where he's just completely nude. That's awesome.
The emperor in his new clothes. So I have all these tabs, so I'm just going tab to tab here because I have a lot of questions related to my tabs here. And now I'm on a Twinkie question. And finally look closely at Twinkie. Mm-hmm. So the message was written on the Twinkie, right?
Yes.
And all I can imagine while I was like reading this was like, did John look closely at a Twinkie while he was trying to portray this?
It was like very
Did
porous.
Molly walk into the room and he's just staring
like,
at a
Twinkie?
Meditating on a Twinkie? Yeah. Well, of course the gag is that they last forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're mesmerizing.
They are a little bit.
I think what's funny, and I mean, I don't know, I bought Twinkies for like the first time in my daughter's existence, and she turns 9 tomorrow. So, like, but I feel like Twinkies were like a staple when I grew up. Like, there was that was your snack. It was like your Twinkie or a ho-ho.
Candle in there.
Yeah, like, that was what it was. So I feel like, they kind of lost their... I mean, are kids into Twinkies now? I feel like they need a reboot.
You gave it a reboot. They're going to be huge.
Yeah.
This is really the book that's going to put Twinkies back on the map, guys. I think,
It's going to be what you get an award for, brought back Twinkies.
1 million Twinkies coming your way. And I will say, I think my favorite line in the entire, actually there's several, but one of my top 5 is a weapon of mass, I can't even say it.
Convection.
A weapon of mass confection.
Uh-huh.
I want to get a T-shirt made.
Sometimes you can't help yourself.
No,
I don't know why I lash out like that, but
I know. I was sitting here when I was reading it. I was just like, "Oh my gosh!"
His eyes widen.
I'm like, if
of mass confection.
If we could ever be in a room like the three, I just had in my mind like we're at a writers' conference and it's like us three, and we're just
so annoying. People would be like, "Can they?"
They'd be like, "Why are they talking?" We're like, we have every single inside joke possible, and
you're not invited.
Yeah. But we do want to know. We love Randall so much, but
okay. I need you to do his voice.
Because in all caps, it's as if somebody's yelling the entire time.
I feel like he's just screaming these
do you want
to join?
I think it's more of it's like a low rumble. Like he's very small, and I'm imagining Bella having this sort of like, pleasantly high but serious toned voice, and P Money is this little cat. And then Randall,
yes,
like, you will obey, like, and there was a bunch. I think a lot of it got cut just for space, but there were a lot of little, like, every time we came back to Randall, he was also working on his little like side project of dominating some lower life form. Right. There was a bit with like he had his animal crackers were worshiping him in the background briefly, like. Randall is kind of a sinister character the more you think about him. The only thing that like keeps him from, taking over the universe is just his size. So he's just waiting to grow up, Yeah. But yeah, no, I really wanted to put Finn in a situation where he wasn't the most chaotic or immature person. And so he had to kind of play the adult role with these 3, big air quotes kids,
No, I loved Bella, like, because she was just so sassy, like, P Money's like, she wants to, she took apart the minder droid or whatever, and, because she wanted to see how it worked, and she's like, false. I wanted to make it not work. Like, no, I wasn't looking at this like false.
Backing me up because they're these just magnificent minds, but they're still very little. And whenever like he was taking them anywhere, all I could envision was like those little daycare ropes.
Yes.
But they have to have the little knot.
They're all like velcroed in.
Yeah, well, they hold on to your knot. They're still walking.
I like the idea that they crawl all over him. That there's this constant sort of like, movement,
Yeah.
P Money's like attached to his leg at all times.
Yeah.
Where did P Money come from? Is that your secret rapper name?
Yes, is the answer.
Where can we download?
Speaking of sidebar, okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't able to put this into our slides, but
is it my video?
Yes, we think we have found your voice somewhere. And we don't know if you actually recorded this or not. Oh. And Kristi made a little video, and
I did. So, like, I was randomly scrolling through TikTok one day. You know how you do.
For hours on end.
It was book talk. And I came across this one video, and I was like, I kind of know that voice. Let me see if I can lift this really high up here.
Hey, bookworms. Here's a new challenge for you. Show me a book you're currently reading. Now show me a book you own that you haven't read yet. Now show me another book you haven't read yet. How about one you swear you'll read before buying more? And another, one more.
Is that you?
That freaked me out. It's not because, but I wasn't sure until the very end, because I was like, when it got to the gag of like, and another, like I would remember doing that joke, I think. That's really bizarre. Yeah, it sounds just like me.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
I'll try to find the video. I think I saved the video.
Because, like in TikTok, people will use, if somebody makes a thing, they'll just use other people's sound. So we were like, is this John?
I think that's John.
I'm going to have to go back and look at my Agent Brain, Writer Brain YouTube videos, because that seems like a plausible place that they could have gotten the sound from, where I might have just been, doing a shtick and mm-hmm. whatnot. But I hope so. That would be, I would be so honored to be a sound on TikTok. I mean, I can't even describe how excited I would be if that were true.
And that we found you.
That you just found it. Yeah, that would be amazing. I really hope it's me now.
I'm going to send it to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that was just my sidebar with your voice. But yeah, so I also really loved, and I put this in the little the invite that I sent you, but the whole thing about the exclamation point, like that it's, it means something, it's like, basically an exclamation point means, I think that's pretty cool. If you think that's cool too, but like, if you don't think, then I don't really care, like that's what the exclamation point means.
You should go back to English teacher.
It's a lot of info to pack in, we use these symbols. They're worthwhile.
Yeah. It's pretty funny.
I was laughing at the remembrance reel that it's on page 38, but it was in honor of this sad occasion. It was Finn. He did a pre-recorded reel. And I'm laughing at that because my husband actually has, like, as morbid as it is, he has his playlist already for his funeral. Like, he has specific.
Wow.
Like,
well, he does work with, like, the elderly.
Seniors. And so... But there's like 30 songs on this. There's literally 30 songs. We're all just going to sit there and listen to 30 songs of music. But I was like, look, it's you.
Yeah.
It's my husband right there.
There you go. I think, there was, as I was getting back into writing this universe and these characters, you're worried that the sense of humor isn't going to come back, because there are like little, as you guys like to point out, I really appreciate it, like little jokes just in the way things are described, and you worry, like, are those going to just come out as you're writing, and are you going to be able to get back into the voices or the heads of the characters? Mm-hmm. And I think this is this is pretty early on in the story, having Finn like pre-record his own memorial reel, which is like 100% to the Sarah McLachlan, like, I will remember you. You know what I mean? And I was like, that's it. That's what he would do. And that's like, that's,
And they came out. One of my other top 5 great lines is the deadly turtleneck of uncertainty. I feel that. Just closing around his throat. I feel it. And I was like, only John would find a piece of clothing, like a turtleneck, and turn it into that. Great description.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
It's so funny. It's, it's just, with everybody, that they meet and wondering what's going on with the Shadowmancer and why, she's trying, to take everything. And there's just so many like great characters, like I like it even at the end that, the Mega Mom and Mr. Jeremy, we have the return of him.
Yes.
And, Greta gets another, stab at the world. And
and I know we had the little tiny guy mushroom. I was really missing our mushroom. I know he was in the islands with you.
There are a few characters who, if there's ever a third dimension Y, I feel like will come back. They've been off doing other things, like Bertram, the mushroom, and clearly Teddy has been busy.
Teddy came back. Teddy came back.
He's been up to stuff. There's a joke in the book that I feel like is now, like, it just missed its window of opportunity and no one will get it now. But there is a moment where Finn is sitting at his desk and Teddy sort of so stupid. Teddy materializes and is like, Finn, like kind of calling to him from this like stormy portal. And it's in the Justice League when Ben Affleck is Batman and the Flash like comes out in this incredibly cheesy scene. I don't like that movie. And I was like, this is what I'm going to put in the book. That movie sounds so like, that no one will remember that. And no one who reads this book would get that reference. So, but I get to tell you what I was trying to do.
Yeah. So and then of course, at the end when we've got
the banana,
yes. Yeah.
Coming out of the
I like the idea of them going on to fight something that is like a more supernatural, what I mean? Like kind of bringing it like it's an elder fruit god is coming to destroy the universe. I mean, this is the fun thing about writing sequels is you have like running jokes and a cast from the previous book that you can bring in for different moments. It's like, it's really hard to get a book off the ground, to get it to a place where you feel like it's got a momentum and you're having fun with it. And when you sit down to write something like a sequel, you've already got that momentum going in a way, so it's really, and it's funny too, because growing up, all of the like formative movie trilogies that I watched as like a young boy, I, for whatever reason, just by coincidence, always saw the second one first. So I saw Back to the Future 2 first, and Terminator 2. I think a lot of people might. So.
Like you wanted that? Did you do that on purpose, or just because?
No. It would be like that was the VHS tape that my cousins happened to have, and they would be like, "Oh, let's put this on." I'd be like, "What is?" It was
the only one at Blockbuster too.
Yeah, exactly. And Star Wars 2. That was another one. So I really like that feeling of being kind of dropped into the middle of a big world that kind of goes off in both directions. Like, ooh, I can go watch the earlier movies or read the earlier books, or I can go forward from here. Like, that's such a great feeling,
Well, middle grade kids like that too, because they don't always get to go in order, so they do like to have like a sort of standalone feel.
Yeah, exactly.
Even because there were some things that that you mentioned in this, I can't recall off the top of my head, but I mean that you would like reiterate about like Finn or Lola that. I was like, well, I already knew that. But then I was thinking, oh, well, if somebody just picked this up, like, then, so I mean, like, somebody could just, read this alone and not read the first one, although it
would make them want to read the first one.
Better to read the first one. But yeah, it was good.
Were you worried that, like, that a lot of people sometimes say, oh, the sequel is not as good as the first. Were you worried at all?
Well, he wrote it in here, right? Didn't you say something like, oh, they say the sequels are never as good?
Yes, you did. But
yeah.
I didn't know if you really felt that.
Is it as good as the first? I think sequels are their own thing. You know what I mean? Like, is it as good of a sequel as the first book is a first book? I feel that it is. I think that, but as far as like, did I worry about what people would say about it? I think if people are talking about it at all, I am pleasantly surprised. So if someone has an opinion,
press is still press, right?
That's totally fine. Yeah, exactly. So, but I think that it's. I think if you read the second one and you're like, oh, well, that was fun, but chaotic and confusing. Now I'll go back and read the first one. Your experience is still probably going to be, wow, that was fun, but chaotic and confusing, and so yeah.
I liked it. I actually kind of liked it better than the first
Yeah.
one. Can I say that?
Really? Oh wow!
Yeah.
Thank
Do you
you.
like the
That, well, I don't know why.
I
That's
did like
great.
I did like the first one, but once I finished this one, I was like, you know what, I like this one too. You know, like not that I didn't like it, but I mean, like I was like, oh, I kind of like the first one better, and she was like, well, I like the second, and I'm like, well,
because I live Randall.
but I wasn't finished reading when I made that comment, so you know, I mean,
you don't have to defend it.
I know you're right. Oh, I lost my train of thought. Dang it, go on.
I just want to say that I really like your spiritual mantra for the cat race. Do you know?
Oh.
Do you remember what it is?
Oh yes. Oh God, yeah, I kind of do. It's all cat stuff. It's all cat jokes.
That's what I love. I did love stuff about cats because I think only like cat owners would like. I mean, I loved the Planet of the Cats and what they were doing at the school, and like you know, they didn't want to interrupt the staring out the window. You know, like you're staring out the window time. You know, he's like, I'm
Professor Donis.
No, staring at the wall. He's staring at the wall, and he's like, "What am I staring at?" He's like, "Well, you're staring at the window." He's like, well, "Clearly, I'm not staring at the wall." Then you know, like. I mean, I have a cat. I'm a cat owner, and my cat, it just cracks me up reading those things because it's so true. And only cat owners would like understand that.
May you also lick yourself.
That is this is the thing as an author, you have to figure out like what is the section that you would read aloud if someone's like, I don't know anything about you or your books. Like you just it has to kind of stand alone. And I think that the introduction to Flighty Shiny Thing University on the Planet of the Cats would probably be, you know, it doesn't even talk about any of the main characters really, but I'd be like, this is kind of, if you can get down with this is the
I don't know if I'd make it. Like if I read your book out, I don't think I would make it through.
Mm-mm.
I'd laugh too much. I couldn't. I'd have to have somebody else do it.
I was laughing out loud. I'm trying to find it. Like right when you were talking about the different things that the Volvo would turn into, and oh man, oh no. So like you know the made you look
the super cloak,
the cloaking device. Yeah, you have to say those things out loud in order to like know, because I was like made you look, and I'm like wait, made you look. That's what got me wondering if this was, did I mention? Because I was like,
yes.
There's but where'd you go? Total invisibility.
Never saw him.
Never saw him. So yeah,
that was funny.
All those things were hilarious, and that's what made me think of the title. I'm like, did I miss this the whole time? Was this what it meant? Did I mention why? Did I mention?
Big moment. Big light bulb. And then I have like an agent question too that was mixed in with your book.
Absolutely.
Because you talked about the Shadowmancer Wars declining in sales and off the bestseller list.
That was.
And I have always had a question on the bestseller list.
Mm-hmm.
How does the bestseller list work exactly? And how does one book stay there for 196 weeks?
So it is the true answer is that it's totally at the discretion of the New York Times. So somebody in
the New York Times. Yeah. That's what
they will. Yeah, they'll source data from booksellers across the country. They will sort of calculate it based on these sales sort of spread out? Are they only spiking in some places? They check to see, they can pretty much find out if someone is using one of those services where they buy up a bunch of copies of their own book to make their sales spike. So you will see on the Times list, they'll sometimes have an asterisk next to their name. That means like, technically you sold a lot, but it wasn't because people wanted to buy it, it was because you bought up your copies. They will.
So that's what the asterisk means?
It can. Also, and I think the asterisk can. So don't. I don't want to like malign anyone who has an asterisk next to their name. I might be misremembering that, but they can indicate if someone is not like has used one of those services. The other thing is that they'll just decide to put something on or take something off. If it's a big buzzy book, they kind of want to participate in the buzziness. Like, they don't want to deflate the list to being about stuff that people don't care about, even though it's popping up on the list. So, for instance, I heard an agent tell a story about a book that shall remain nameless that was on the nonfiction bestseller list for years and years and years. And one day it just wasn't. And so he's getting calls from the client, like basically the industry around this guy is freaking out. Like, where did the book go? We've noticed, and the agent somehow had a contact at the Times, and they just said to him, it's been on there a long time. Like, we kind of wanted to mix it up. Like, there's another new sort of book that's exciting that we need to make room for. Like, they just decided, to kind of kick it off. And I think he managed to argue it back on, because he says, look, if the sales numbers support it, et cetera. So it is discretionary. And though it is based, I think mostly on sales, but also just like commercial centrality. People are talking about it. It's in the pop culture consciousness. It's being written about, et cetera.
And don't you, like, if you have a book coming out, like, to get, New York Times bestselling author put on that hardcover, don't you have to have a certain amount of sales, pre-order sales before the book even comes out for you to get that?
So that's a technique to get you onto the list. So think of it this way. Like, let's say on average, 400 people a week buy your book. That's not going to be high enough to get you onto the list. But if you take a bunch of those weeks and you compile them into one, which is what you do with pre-orders, everyone over months and months that you're saying, buy it, pre-order it, they're buying all their books. And then on pub day, boom, you get all those sales at once. And so you have in 1 week, say 1,400 sales or, 2,000 copies sold. And that is enough to put you on the list that week. Now, a lot of books list their first week and then fall off,
right.
Or they move down, the list. But listing, I mean, you list once, you're spot number 10 for 1 week, you're a New York Times bestseller.
Sure.
And they'll put that on your, you know what I mean? Like, so it's still a massive achievement. And sometimes that the publicity from being a bestseller and like that many people out there reading your book can boost your sales and get your momentum going. In a way that wouldn't have happened if you hadn't done that pre-order campaign. I've seen houses go back and forth over the years saying, oh, pre-order campaigns aren't really worth it. We're not going to do one. To, in this past year, for whatever reason, they're super into pre-order campaigns and like tiered rewards and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's publishers do their best to work the system to get the book the most sales and press that they can.
Yeah, some money.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, talk a little bit, and then we'll segue back, because you brought up something. I feel like there's a shortage of like everything in the world, including paper. So, are copies of books seeing a hard hit versus like a digital? Because there's so much craziness going on.
I think what people are really freaking out. So I've seen titles moved back, not a lot, but like by a couple of weeks in this past couple of months. And yes, that's because of supply shortages, but it's also because of labor shortages and what have you. It's a lot of stuff colliding, and what I would say publishers are worried about is that the big bounce that they can usually expect every year around the holidays will be less, because people aren't going to buy a book if it's not going to show up by Christmas, or they're going to buy a book because it says it'll show up by Christmas, but then they see it's not, so they say, okay, cancel that order. It can cause real chaos. I think being a literary agent, I'm multiple layers away from where this is really evident. So I'm only kind of seeing the furthest out reflections of this problem. And most of the info I get is either from the news or from, meeting with publishers and asking them like, hey, how's this going for you guys? What I will say is that when the pandemic first hit and we didn't know what was going to happen, there was complete chaos and a lot of rapid changes in policy, and we're going to get these grants and we don't know what's going to happen. So it's all hands on deck. And it never got that bad that we needed all those things in quite that degree. So I guess from my perspective, yes, this is a big issue. I'm seeing less panic because I think that we have more infrastructure in place to deal with it now. And we, the business is kind of getting used to being in crisis mode and to rolling with that, and to, everyone from the editors down through the agents and authors are kind of used to saying, hey, we're going to have to push your book back 2 weeks, and we're all kind of inoculated against thinking that's a huge bad thing. It's like, well, that's got to happen now. And right. We're all kind of in it together to a certain extent. And so it's not as doom and gloom as you might think from the outside. I mean, publishers are still selling a ton of books, profits are rising. Not for writers, unfortunately, but for the owners of CBS and Viacom and News Corp, things are going fantastic. So the business is okay.
Yeah, because just doing a quick sweep through your Twitter account, it's actually been a really good year for you. It seems like all of your people are just popping out those books.
And we got to go see Miss Julie.
Yes, we went.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, which was super fun. But she just recently released the second book in that Faith series, Faith Greater Heights.
That's right. Yep, Faith Greater Heights was November 2nd. That came out, yeah.
And then, obviously the shoe fits, and then
the raunchy
raunch-com is what she's calling it, that she's going to write with her friend.
I'm going to buy 10 of them.
Guys, it's so fun. You cannot have a bad time reading this book. It's such a blast. And,
well, she has such a great personality. It was her and her husband that came to this small little
funny and cute
book thing, and they were hilarious back in, I think it would be like us talking, but she was super funny and just totally,
down to earth.
Yeah. I wish that it wasn't, pandemic, because we were all separated, and then as soon as she was done, she had to leave, and I was like, but I want a picture.
Please
don't leave. But yeah, she's so funny, and it just comes out in her writing too, and then to think that she's going to do this holiday raunch-com with her friend, that sounds really fun.
It's a dream come true.
She is just such a force for good in the world. I want the world in which we are all like Julie Murphy. She's just so wonderful. And her and Sierra Simone, who is a writing partner on Be Merry, are such besties. I mean, they are really long-term partners in crime, best friends. And I think that this getting to write something together was a long-term dream of theirs. Can we make this work? Is this something that the people will go for? And I also, this also getting to represent this book means I get to work with Sierra, who is also just a joy bucket and fantastic and brilliant. And so, this is really fun. It's obviously a new space in the market for me as an agent. But that's
any raunch-coms coming out.
This is my first book that I'm representing with full frontal nudity in it. So that's that's something.
I just want to be in the room when they read it out loud to make sure it flows well. Please get me a tip.
Well, Julie was so cute too, because when she sent it to me for the first time, she's like, I'm gonna go have to bury my head under pillows for the next week while you read this, because I can't imagine you reading the things that I've written in these scenes.
That would be.
But
yeah, giving it to your dad,
right? Please don't. Just send it back. Don't. It's fine.
Let's just say we'll just pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah,
just delete it. We'll just do that.
And then Sarah's Exoplanet, being Amazon's best book of November. So far. And they're so great. We talk with them a lot.
Yeah, they're fun.
We love them.
Also really fantastic people. George and Megan, I represent very few picture book authors and artists. And the ones that I do are very close to my heart. Just folks I love working with, who I love their work. Every time the Laceras tell me about their next idea or what they care about or what they're thinking about. I'm just like, oh my God, like I wish I was your kid. Like I want to be raised.
I know. I follow them on Instagram.
Yeah, we follow, yeah.
He's got the life.
His costumes. Oh my gosh. He's such a such a fashion plate, and B, he has the most amazing costumes. So yeah.
He's gonna rock it.
Yeah.
I did pick up Laura Sebastian's book. It's on my December TBR, which is about
Castles in Their Bones, that one?
No.
Is that the one that you're representing? Because I got confused with her.
Yes. Okay. So Laura's first trilogy.
Right.
So Laura's got a bunch of stuff. So Laura's got her first trilogy in YA was called Ash Princess, which I did not represent.
Right.
And then after that, after Ash Princess,
she did
we started working together.
Yeah, the half six shadows.
Is that the adult?
This one, half six shadows. That's the one, the green cover.
So that's her adult debut. So Laura, like Julie, is also doing some work in the adult world. And Half Sick of Shadows is so cool. So it's a reimagining of the Arthurian legend. And without going into too many spoilers, the main character is a seer, is someone who can see into the future. And what I love about that and how it works through the story is that you pick up an Arthurian legend book and you know how it ends, right? You know the Arthur legend.
Right.
And so what a cool way to start to explore this legend changing by having a main character that is in the same position as the reader. Like, okay, I'm going into this adventure and I know that Lancelot is supposed to do X and Guinevere is going to do Y and this is going to happen. And then when stuff doesn't happen that way, you know what I mean? It's this like, she can go on that journey with you. So I think Laura just came up with such a profound way to invert and reimagine that legend specifically from a feminist perspective. So I hope you love it. Highly recommend Half Sick of Shadows.
Now I have to move it to November.
So that's the adult debut, but then she's got another YA series coming out, right?
She's got another YA series coming out. Castles in Their Bones is the first one. It's about three sisters, all of whom are princesses being married out to regents. Yeah. And lots of sinister plotting and betrayal and what have you. And yeah, also super fun.
Also, congrats on your new role.
I know. You move away and you get like promoted.
Oh yeah, God, this has been a hell of a year. You guys,
you got a new title.
And I'm wondering, did you ever come up with like I think you were coming up with like a prank or something. Like you're like, how do you like prank like I don't know. You were gonna. What was it? Was it a prank for like the
Did you
new
office
person
pranks?
Or it was something I don't know. You posted something and I was intrigued by
because she's prankster.
I'm a prankster, and so I was like, ooh, I wonder what he did.
I don't remember. I clearly don't remember half the stuff I say.
It's okay. We don't either. We don't either. So what's next for my boy Randall? I need to know.
I think that Randall is gonna stick tightly with Bella and P Money. I think there's a real bond there, though Bella probably wouldn't admit it out loud. Oh, yeah. And I think the three of them would have their own adventures. I mean, clearly they can hotwire an escape pod with no trouble. So I would imagine they will take their equivalent of the rescue wagon, which is sort of this rescue minivan.
Or a plate of pears, whatever you
need like one of those.
Right. Sometimes it's a tea set. Yeah. Or Mastodon. I think they're gonna take that out and they're gonna follow in the footsteps of their explorer guide, Finn, and go exploring.
Yeah. Well, you have one buyer already. So pre-order,
right?
There you go.
Get on that. Post a whole bunch, and we'll get on the bestseller
list.
Is that what your is any of the stuff from Dimension Y what you are NaNoWriMing right now? NaNoWriMo.
Yes, and you're doing NaNoWriMo. How's it going? Day 6.
So it was going really well, and then my computer died.
Yeah, what happened there? You hitting those keys too hard? Yeah.
Oh my gosh! I
got real scared.
Was it in the middle of when you were writing?
It was overnight. Like I woke up in the morning, went to turn it on, and it was just it had it had departed to go join the great AI in the sky overnight. And yeah, so what I wrote is now gone, but I'll come back to that world and start over. But basically, it was an adult fantasy about an assistant to a like royal astrologer who gets kind of promoted too young because his boss is killed by the king for a bad prediction. And that was like, and it was very like
humorous because I feel like, I mean, well, maybe astrology is different, but I thought weatherman for some reason. I'm like, they never predict right. I don't know why my brain went to weatherman, but they never
predict. A meteorologist.
Yes, not it was the
Now you have another book idea.
Yeah,
there you go.
Weatherman never predict right. I mean, I don't even know like what qualifications you have to have that job. Like it looks, it's gonna be 75-ish. I mean, think about California weathermen. Anyways, I digress.
So adult fantasy. I love fantasy. So yeah, go ahead and write that.
It would be, I mean, you know, I was writing it in the goofy voice of Dimension Y, which
it's hard to break.
I don't know if that really works in the adult space, but I was doing it anyways because just for fun. So.
I mean, I found it humorous. I mean, you know, I would read it. I would pick it up and read, you know, Dimension Y, even though it's a middle grade. I feel like it's like Disney movies where like, you know, like, yes, it's geared towards kids, but like there's that adult humor that like only they would get, you know?
Yeah. I think, you know, these books in a certain way are really an homage to the books that my parents would read me when I was a kid. And some of them were for kids. And some of them were kind of not like I always talk about the Robert Asprin myth series, where every title was a pun on myths, and it would be like something mything or missing persons or another mistake. And it was
just the list.
They were
mistake.
And like, yeah, then like that's the kind of thing that I want to do next because they were just goofy fantasy, like this is goofy sci-fi. And my parents read them out loud to me, and I know that there must have been so many things that they found funny that I was too young to understand, but it didn't matter. Like we enjoyed it together. So I think that I naturally kind of write with that in mind a little bit. Because also you're sort of writing as your adult 10-year-old self, you know?
Yeah.
We never really grow out of that.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Exactly.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
It's like the part of you that will always, I'll say the part of me that will always find the Muppets like just hilarious. You know what I mean? Like it never gets old. I still think they're great. You know?
Yeah. They just did a Halloween special too.
I know, which I haven't seen, and there you go.
Good. Yeah, you got to do that.
I didn't see that. Okay, so on the topic of agent kind of questions, recently you took a break a few months ago to get caught up. And I say that because of my question. Like, I wonder, you know, agents that like, where I'm, you know, not taking any queries from such and such amount of time. Like, do you ever get caught up? Like, is that just something you say, you know, to like get your feet under you? But I mean, like, is it day one, like my emails, you know, the day you say, okay, I'm reopening, like I have 0 emails and the first person that submit is like number 1. Like, is that,
I mean, you get hundreds.
I feel like you can't get caught up.
Really,
it is
be overwhelmed.
I mean, a potentially intimidating fact, I think, is really vital for all of us who are writers and people who work in publishing to understand is that there is, as far as I can tell, an infinite tidal wave of new material being produced at all times.
Right.
I get between 15 and 20 queries a day, 7 days a week. So one of the ways I deal with that amount of influx is that I don't respond to queries that are no's. So it's a lot of like, read it, that's a pass, just unread. And I have, you know, posted up in various places like, oh, if you don't hear from me within 30 days or 60 days, consider it a pass. For manuscripts, I mean, I would say I probably have still to go this year something like 20, maybe 30 full manuscripts that have been requested from those 20 queries a day over the course of the last year. And the oldest one is probably, I have like a few lingering from June, which I feel terrible about. And then the rest are more recent. So so what I did to like catch up was to pause incoming queries, which effectively does nothing. Like that, the percentage.
People don't listen to that.
This sounds good.
Nobody listens. The percent, like I
saw
put it
your
up
tweet.
wherever. Oh my god, wherever my submission guidelines are, I put it in like all caps up at the top. I am closed to queries.
Yeah.
I pinned the tweet, but I also understand like it's the internet, so people get information about you from all kinds of places, and I recognize that there are old interviews of mine that are like out of date, and I say I do one thing, I don't do it anymore, whatever. I get that it's confusing, but I would say it stemmed the tide of queries 0%. It's the same amount, and I considered not reading them, but you can't take the chance that
one of
them,
the Hunger Games is in there. You know what I mean? And so you end up kind of like half reading them anywames.
Guys,
and you get to feel a little bit less guilty about not responding.
Seriously, guys, I'm closed.
Seriously,
I'm closed.
Yeah. But it's, nobody listens. So, but you try to catch up and whatnot. So there is just always this mountain of reading to do that is in addition to my full-time job of taking care of my clients, reading their work, dealing with their issues and problems. You know what I mean? So it is overwhelming, which is ironic because I do not take enough of this understanding over to the editors, who are also equally deluged. Because when they take forever, I'm like, well, that's just unacceptable. Like, get your stuff together. Come on.
What do you do all day?
God.
Right. Like, why aren't you reading my stuff first? Like, there's a total disconnect. Yep. But
do you ever
it's
go,
true. We're all overwhelmed.
We've seen you in a, you got the like, hey, if I heart your pitch, send me the manuscript. Do you ever like go through stuff and you heart stuff and you're like, oh, this is going to hurt later?
I know. Cause that was my next question was like, I was looking at your thing for like DB Pitt and you're like, if I heart your, what? If I heart your manuscript, like send me the full. And I'm like, dude, like you're just skipping over. Like, I mean, you just send me the whole thing.
Yeah,
like
taking out the middleman.
But like, because here's the thing. I mean, that probably sounds more impressive than it really is, because all I'm doing is saying, send me all your material. And the moment I get to a point in reading it where I'm like, this is a no, I stop. You know what I mean? Like, so it could be. Isn't
like, I mean, maybe I need a refresher on like if an agent requests the full, like they're gonna like respond. You know what I mean? Like you have the option to, like, if somebody queried you and they, first 10 pages or whatever the submission is, you don't have to respond. But if you're requesting a full, there is like kind of the understanding that there will be a response to a full.
Correct.
So, I mean, you do give yourself more work by asking for the whole thing, but I guess you could just say no right away.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can say no at any time, and the degree to which, you're I think the implication is you're going to read it and then, so therefore have detailed feedback on your past, which isn't necessarily true. If I'm the way I do it, and I think this is the way most agents do it, is yes, if I request a manuscript, I will respond. And I will respond with something more fulsome than not for me. If it's an issue with the voice, you know what I mean? Well, like if it's an issue with the voice, or if it's like a pacing thing, or I just, sometimes the simplest it will get, which, remains true, is just, I just didn't fall in love with it. It's interesting because I'm reading, I have 2 interns this semester, and our internship program is very, very educational focused, So they're reading manuscripts that I've requested, and they'll bring them to me and they'll say, this is amazing, or like, this looks really good this way, or even at the query level, they'll see a pitch in the inbox and say like, hey, you want to check this out? And 9 times out of 10, I agree with them, except to the extent that I don't have room on my list for this book. And and I'm always trying to explain to them over and over again, this is in part because of where I am in my career at the moment. My list is really packed. I have more people than I kind of know what to do with. So to take on someone new, I kind of have to be breaking my own rule in a sense. It's not that I have a rule not to take on new people, but it's like I have to do something that on some level I know is bad for me, because I'm so booked, you know. So
Literally.
that literally booked. So that is part of it. Is the, like, there's a lot of passes where I think to myself, someone can go do great with this, you know. And in fact,
you ever pass along, like if you liked something but realized it couldn't go onto your list, do you ever pass along to maybe another agent in Folio or something?
I do. I will. What I will say about that, though, is interestingly, I find it rare that submissions to me would be of interest to my colleagues. So there aren't a lot of agents at Folio who do Kidlit basically full time. It's more or less me and Emily Van Beek, who are like full on kid stuff. And I'm starting to do some adult stuff. But like, you know, Marcy Posner, Rachel Ekstrom, Melissa White, I'm blanking on names, but these are some of the people who do, you know, stuff on both sides, right? Very rarely is a submission for me going to be right for them, though. Emily and Rachel's tastes are very contemporary, realistic. You know, they're more grounded. They're more romance focused sometimes. You know, think about it this way, like, you know, Emily Van Beek represents Jenny Han. She also represents like a million amazing picture book artists. Her style of thing is very different from my style of thing. So when someone queries me and is like, you know, this middle grade adventure about, you know, Stapler Boy who travels back in time. I'm like, wow. I'm like, that sounds super cool, but, you know, not, you know, I don't have room for it. There's no one else at Folio at the moment that would be like, you should really try this person. And they're welcome to too. That's the thing, is if I pass on something, they can query someone else, and you can query multiple agents at Folio at once. You know, we can't stop you.
Weird.
You know, but
that's rare.
That's rare. Yeah, I mean,
there's a few I've seen that do that.
And then there's one agent. What is it? Is it Writer's House, or is it you like
exclusive submission?
No, it's not Writer's House. It's
yeah, they have it.
Is it Writers?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You
not that people do it.
No,
but it's on
but
there.
they can only submit to one person that. And then if they say no,
right.
like the entire...
That's Andrea Brown.
That's Andrea Brown. The entire group of them, like, nobody can have it.
Better pick a good one.
You pick the right one, and that's it.
That's so odd to me. That's so odd to me, because it's, wouldn't you want... I mean, I get it, because, you know, when you get right down to it, the ultimate reason people pass on something is this isn't going to make enough money. And... That's the end result. Like whatever the cause of death, the brain stops working, the heart stops beating. Like it is always the same thing, right? And I think that we always are responding with feedback that is open-ended and positive, because if you didn't get a yes now, that's not to say this book won't go on to get a yes later. But if we're giving that feedback, there can sometimes be a disconnect between, I see a lot of potential in this, and someone can ask, well, is there someone else who you think it's right for? And the answer that we don't want to give is no, because it's not good enough to have an agent yet. In our opinion, that's the truth, 99% of the time. So we don't want to recommend you to someone else because we don't think it's good enough. You know what I mean? Like to say something, I don't think it's good, sounds so harsh and degrading, like it has no value. That's not it at all. It just means that it's not over that line yet. So that's the thing about recommendations, is that most of the time it's just not quite there. And and it's the same is true when agents are submitting to editors. Like editors will always give us, well, not always, but oftentimes they will give us some kind of feedback. And when we pass that feedback on to the author, sometimes the author totally understandably is like, well, I can just fix that. Like if that's your problem with the book, thank you for letting me know. Easily fixable and changeable. And the reality, the thing that needs to be translated is the notes are to be gracious. It's not that they're a lie, that this is something you should look at and will improve the book, but that's not the reason the person passed. The reason is that the gestalt of your book, the sum total of its qualities and points, if you will, didn't get it over the line to, I think this is going to make a lot of money. And to spell out the exact reason, like all the little reasons why that is true, would probably take pages. And that's why like edit letters are big, and why we edit over and over again. It's a big, complicated, multifaceted process, right? So it's kind of like, does the chemical reaction occur? yes or no, as opposed to like, oh, it has this one little problem that needs fixing. Now, there are exceptions to that rule. You know, sometimes there are writerly decisions that might just not work for the market or might just not work for certain editors. And in those instances, what an agent might do is send out a project to only a few editors at once. Rather than sending out on a really wide list, you might kind of test the waters with 3 or 4 to see, like, I wonder if they're going to have a problem with the thing I think they might have a problem with. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have a problem with it. And I think some people might not, but I don't know. I kind of need to test.
Right.
And you start to see if they come back and they're like, oh, you know, the fact that in part, you know, the second act they do this, or like the fact that the main character turns out to be the bad guy, like I really didn't like that. Then you can kind of retreat and say, okay, that thing can be fixed before we go out to other editors. And in certain circumstances, you can go back to those editors and say like, hey, you did mention this specific problem. You know, if they said in their past, like, I would be open to seeing more from this person, you might say, hey, we did a big rewrite. Would you be interested to see this again? But again, they're under no obligation to do that. So this just became a long rambling answer.
Well, we're like
the most honest answer we've ever.
Because we've had that before where we get back, you know, like, oh, this, you know, we've actually gotten a bit of feedback and we're like, well, we could fix that.
Yeah,
like let me help, like, we'll fix it and we'll send it back, you know, and to know, you know, I mean, as harsh and, you know, I'll cry about it later, but I mean, like, as, you know, truthful to know that it's not like, that was nice. Like, yes, these things do need to be fixed, but like ultimately big picture, you know, it's a good,
because you read so many things and so many people have their own opinions about it, but that was an actual answer.
Yes.
So
which a lot of writers don't get. You know, it's like, it's not a fit for my list. And I'm like, well, actually, like, we met every single point on your list. You asked for this, 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 and this. And we have that. So I don't get it.
It's subjective.
Yeah.
But you see, you know, and that's the other thing too, is on some level, I think it can be a little bit encouraging, because sometimes a no can feel like there's nothing right about this. You know what I mean? When oftentimes a lot of the things I say no to, it's like there is everything right about this except the few final things that kind of need to come together to push it over the edge for me. You know, so, you know, when you get that feedback, when you get those passes, it's not that it's like complete flat out. And, you know too, that like when I'm submitting projects, I'll have editors get back to me with responses that I know kind of mean like, no, like, no, thank you. Like, are you kidding? You know what I mean? Like, like, not like, this really didn't, I can't see how we could do this. And then another editor across the street will be like, well, John, you and I both know that this is a voice of a new generation. And I'll be like, yes, it is. You know, it's, you will have, you know, one group of editors or agents say they like the story but don't like the voice, and another group say I love the voice but don't like the story. You know, they'll totally reverse it. So
like readers, I mean, I like this book, I didn't like this one. So I get it.
Yeah. And I think that especially in YA in particular, what we're trying to do is publish the books that will have the largest number of people who will agree that they like it. You know what I mean? And that's why sometimes I think it's tricky when you have something that's good, but it's too niche. You know, sometimes you see that where it's like, you know, oh, this is really fun. And yes, there would be a market for this, but there's a small market for it. And publishing as it currently exists really isn't set up to support small or medium-sized projects. It's built to sort of generate one hit out of a bunch of possibilities and then draw income from that one hit to support venture capitaling a bunch of new projects to find the next big thing. You know, that's a big way that publishers kind of acquire these days. It's not good for writers, and it's a thing that as agents we try to compensate for and push against, you know, as much as we can. But so I know that these things kind of sound gloom and doom, but I feel like when you kind of understand the game you're playing, you become much better at playing it. You become much more effective. You know what I mean?
Well,
yeah.
If you had an interview, I don't remember what it was, but it was. I read it. I sent it to you, and I think there are 3 stages. You said the first draft is like for you. The second is for the reader, and the third is for to make money.
To
You
make
have to
money,
understand that you're there to make money. And when an author can get there, it's a whole lot better world for them to be able to process all this. So that really resonated with me. So
I think the big
money, it's money.
Getting past those thresholds are like really big psychological moments in the life of a writer. And I think a lot of people who are just starting off are trying to get to that place where you're writing for an audience rather than writing to entertain yourself. Like, you're trying to write for an audience, but you haven't quite slipped into that, like, I'm the director of this scene phase where you're very intentional about what goes in. And you're kind of, everybody writes differently. Some people write in a flow, and I draft. I'm like in a vibe, and I'm just going and going and going, and then I go back and revise. But that said, that revision part, however, at whatever point you do it, has to be about like, okay, what are the things I want to convey in this scene? How do I create a scene arc that is interesting? So we have a like pop at the beginning and pop at the end. You start thinking really intentionally, and that's really what separates the pros from the people who are just kind of learning their craft, and I think that next stage is one where, you're really learning not the craft of writing so much as the craft of the business, and what works and what doesn't, and your current market,
Yeah. Not a game for the
lighthearted.
Yes.
Thin-skinned.
Well, Speaking of games, we are going to test your knowledge on your book.
Oh, God.
Where's it from?
I'm going to be so bad at this.
No. So I came up with 9 questions, and we were going to do it with a whole game of rock, paper, scissors, but then we realized if we won, nobody's going to care what we think about things. So,
and you would probably go to rock every time.
Yeah, because you're a man, and we would go to paper. So question number 1: what was the name of the song that Finn and Lola were singing in the beginning of the book?
Stumped him.
Or who is?
There's a drum solo in it. I know that because Finn plays it on the steering wheel.
And they repeat like the same.
Is it Gargle Pooch?
Yes. Everybody Gargle Pooch. Bonus points if you know who it's by.
They came from your brain.
Yeah. Toady and the Rocket Butts. That is the correct answer.
Toady and the Rocket Butts.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Toady and the Rocket Butts. All right.
An oldie, a classic.
Everybody goodie. Yes.
Featuring P-Money.
This is really like my like biggest fear, because this is exactly what I'm bad at, is remembering what I've said and written. Okay, go ahead.
I have some easy ones in here for you. All right. So, minds want to know, if a planet explodes and there's no one around to hear it, does it make a sound?
No, because it's exploding in a vacuum, and the medium would not convey the sound regardless of whether or not there were ears to hear it. But I would also say metaphysically, I'm on the side of no, it doesn't make a sound.
Yeah.
So it would be
silent but
deadly.
Yes.
I was also in my top 5.
Just keeping it classy for the kids.
Yeah. All right, here's an easy one for you. What is the name of Greta's ship?
Oh.
Okay, we thought it was easy. The
SS.
It's the. What is it? I can't get it. I'm so bad at this.
The SS Calming Breath.
Calming Breath. The SS Calming Breath. That's right.
I love this.
Yeah.
I love this. We're stumping him.
All right. I mean, I did pick some difficult ones, but this one I thought was funny, and it goes on that whole thing, I feel like it's this kind of digs at editors and publishers. So on Gardyloo, editors are encouraged to take a break how many days? Every how many days?
Range. There's a range.
Is it every 30 days?
No, 75 to 90.
Okay.
Don't get a break. 75 to 90 days.
Also, I have something else
probably
for you guys. I have something else for you guys. Gardy-loo is a real word.
No.
And and you should Google what it means, and it will feel.
Well, I did look up koalas.
Yeah, we did look up koalas last time.
They're disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't read it. I kind of wanted to see her face. I should pull it up.
Okay, well, I already did the exclamation point one. We kind of already said this.
Oh, right.
Oh, okay. We're gonna, all right.
Okay.
I didn't know that. I will use that in a sentence now. All right.
Or you'll do it.
Or I'll do it. All right. What did Miss Anthony use to eliminate the Gardy-loo employees?
She spiked their sleepy time tea.
Mm-hmm. An unconcentrated dose of sleepy time chamomile tea.
Which I appreciate.
Chamomile tea.
Yeah, we like that tea.
I love it.
So there is this book, as like the last one, is full of references to video games and movies and just the trash that rattles around in my brain. And Mrs. Anthony definitely owes a debt to GLaDOS from the Portal video games, who is an AI who destroyed her researchers with a neurotoxin. But since it's a kid's book, I thought maybe rather than like a poison gas, it would be something like
it's
sleepy
close
time
to
tea.
it.
Well,
tea takes you out.
Yeah, you referenced that in saying that they just didn't have any neurotoxins, so she had to, use what she had. So,
And I'll tell you this:
resourceful.
You go into any publisher's like snack, they are going to have sleepy time tea in the break room.
How weird! Why,
They
they want to go to
just
sleep? They want to go to sleep?
Well, because it's like herbal tea, just any kind of herbal tea,
Interesting.
All
I'm
right.
gonna go do that. I'm gonna go to New York and just go Don't mind me. I'm just checking your
cabinet. Checking your cabinet. All right. What is the name of the device that Finn created?
Portable people flinger.
Mm-hmm. The personal people flinger.
Personal people flinger.
A portable personal people flinger. Yes.
Eater.
Yes.
All right. What was the message Lola sent the Shadowmancer?
I love it.
It's come and get me booger face.
Come and get me, you massive booger.
Massive booger face.
Come and get me, you massive booger. Yes, that was very.
Lola can be immature when she wants to be. She's not always. She's not always. Up,
Yeah,
I get it.
I like her. I like it. All right, and then we kind of already said this, but what is Lola's go-to move in rock paper scissors? In order,
it must be paper.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
Now you had just rock paper scissors initially, like when they first talked about it, but then you added shoot later.
That's how you do it.
Which I made
scissors,
like
shoot.
Well, that's like the new form.
You were gonna wear your rock paper scissors throat punch.
Yeah,
shirt.
the throat punch shirt.
I always said shoot in school. It was always rock paper scissors, and then on shoot you went.
Old.
You could be like Joey from Friends, and he did fire.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing? It's fire.
Why not?
Burn up your paper.
Oh, good times.
Oh man. Well, you did fairly well. I will give you an A for effort for knowing.
I'm amazed I did as well as I did, honestly.
Yep.
And it's forever videoed in time. So.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
You know your book.
Zero. This book.
Yeah. Yep. I was really, if I had more time, I was gonna go and try and find some stuff from book number 1. But
yeah. When I did want to know if you knew how many times you used bathrobe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How many people in your novel were in a bathrobe?
So the Shadowmancer is wearing a bathrobe, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Finn is not. He is wearing a white jumpsuit through most of part 1.
Right.
No. Right. Okay. Lola doesn't wear a bathrobe.
His parents.
Who else? His parents.
Yeah. His parents, and then didn't the president?
The president.
Yeah.
Oh, and the president is also wearing a bathrobe.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
I know it's a gift for Christmas.
Yeah. Book bar bathrobes coming at ya.
It's the only way to travel the universe. I mean, Arthur Dent, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Like, clearly, you got it. I want to be comfy. Like, if I'm gonna go,
But I feel like bathrobes can be so exposing. Like, you gotta cinch that. You know, I mean, like,
be careful.
Oh no, I mean,
Women
no, that's fair. You gotta have like a full pajama set.
Yeah,
on.
for sure.
Like a onesie.
Mm-hmm.
Like a onesie. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Like
All right, John Cusick. We
Well,
appreciate you.
Yes,
I
always
just adore you. Thank you so much for having me. It's so fun to talk to you guys.
Have a safe travel back to New York.
Yes,
and,
pictures, please, and have fun with your dad.
Yes,
I will. Thank you very much.
Try and find another apartment that's got that. I mean, I don't know how common they are to have the brick walls, but they probably are very common in New York. I feel.
Fingers crossed. We'll do our best.
Yeah, and I'll be on the lookout for my little triplets book.
Yeah, the triplets book. And the raunchy rom.
Yes, the raunchy
rom-com.
Well, you have a wonderful day/weekend.
Yes.
You too, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.
Be well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Love
Okay.
him.
That was awesome. John's awesome. We love him.
I know the sequel of our interview was even better than the first.
I know. Fun games. Fun games to play. Fun books to read.
Yes, if you haven't, pick it up. It's super hilarious.
Number 1 and number 2.
No pun intended. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Did I mention why you should have this book? I don't know. Did I mention why?
And then next weekend.
Gosh, yes. Quick turnaround. On
the 14th.
We are interviewing JL, fellow Houstonian.
Yes.
About Wings of Ebony. So that will be super fun.
Yep. She's got a sequel coming out with this one as well.
Yes. She's got lots of
lot
books.
of them, middle
Lots
grade.
of books. All these people that write in all these different avenues, adults, middle grade, throw them all out there. It's probably a smart tactic, actually. But yes, so we will be here in just basically a week, interviewing her. So thank you guys for watching, and pick up John's book, pick up JL's book, and cheers to the book bar. Good to be back with y'all.
See you next time.
Bye.